Okay. Okay, so we're starting Parak Bays of Tanya. We're going to try to do 6 hours in one. Okay, so I'm using poems that I wrote years ago just to give us something to work with. I posted on the chat. I could post it again. I'll send it to you. I could email it, absolutely.
I'll send it.
Okay, amazing.
What's your email?
Okay, here we go. So in the first parak of Tanya, we learned about our animal soul. And in this parak, we're going to talk about our godly soul. And this is very important information, because when we realize that there are two souls, two kings trying to rule over one body, it makes sense that we could have that 1 minute we could feel very drawn to spiritual things, and the next minute we're very drawn to physical things. So when you understand what's going on, that there's two kings trying to take control over this one city, which is your body, then it helps us understand what's going on inside of us, why we feel so torn, and why 1 minute we feel we're inclined to one thing, and the next minute we're inclined to something else. So we're going to speak about our godly soul today. And what we have to realize is that the godly soul is something that you have to dig for. The animal soul is on the surface. And some people could live their entire life without ever getting in touch with their godly soul. And it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. And the animal soul, that we spoke about that first, because that's on the surface. That's something that's the life. That's the soul that gives us our life, that makes sure that we have what to eat, and that we're happy, and that we're comfortable, and that we're okay spiritually. I'm saying emotionally and physically. But then we have this godly soul, which is our which is our spiritual, which is our spiritual self, which is our true, who we truly are. And when we discover our godly soul, it's not just discovering another part of us, but rather it's discovering our core, who we really are in our essence, at our essence. Okay. Our godly soul is called the second one, because only at Bar Bas Mitzvah does it fully come. Just like Yaakov was born second, but was first to be conceived, so too our godly soul comes second, but its power can't be believed. Okay, so the godly soul comes in stages, and Bar Bas Mitzvah, when we become fully responsible to keep the Torah mitzvahs, that's when our godly soul fully shines. But just because the godly soul comes in fully second doesn't mean that it's less important. Just because it's called the second soul and comes in the second parak doesn't mean welcome. Doesn't mean that it's a secondary, but rather it's just that it's much deeper, and we have to work harder to find it. Okay. It seems that the animal soul is primary, but our godly soul is a part of Hashem literally. Okay, so this Parak Beis, in the beginning of Parak Beis, okay, how does it start? Parak Beis, V'nefesh Hashenis b'Yisrael, the second soul in Israel, He chelek Elokah, it's a piece of God, Mima'al, from higher than the high, Mamish, literally. So Mima'al, Mamish are two opposites. And we find, so it's very interesting that Yiddishkeit is like that. The most spiritual things, take the Exodus, going out of Mitzrayim, right? Comes the Seder night. We should be, speaking about all the spiritual, involved in all the spiritual lights of Exodus and freedom. And yet, what are we doing? No. How much kazayis matzah? It's mimal. It's so great going out of Egypt, but yet it comes down into the most mamish, into the most literal physical things. How 4 cups of matzah and how much exactly is the kazayis and not to talk and how to do this and how to do that. Everything is so practical, and you have to finish for chatzais. Everything is so down to the nitty gritty, but yeah, it's mimal. It's the most lofty things, and that's how Yiddishkeit is. And the thing is, the higher you are, the lower you could come down. It would seem like it's two opposites, but how do you know that something is truly mimal? When it could come down to the mamish, literally, that you could touch it, the physical down here. So Judaism, Yiddishkeit, it's not, you can't just be mimal. You can't just be, locked up in your house for your whole life and sit and learn Torah and just be lofty and spiritual. And you can't either be just mamish, just in the physical business and material pursuits, but rather Yiddishkeit is a blend of mima'al and mamish. You have to bring the spirituality into the physicality, and that is really what we're doing here. And so this welcome. So this soul, this neshama, the second soul, it's the bridge between Hashem, infinite God, and mamish, this physical world. So that is what this neshama, the second soul, is that we have. Okay. It is compared to a candle lit in a dark room which shines brightly. In its presence, the animal soul melts away easily. So the godly soul is by far, incomparably, it's infinite, and as soon as it has an opportunity to shine and to be revealed, then the animal soul will immediately melt away. It's just, do we give the godly soul the opportunity do we allow it to express itself? Our mission is to reveal that our godly soul is not secondary, but rather it is our true identity. The proof is that although our connection to physicality comes easy, we are only ready to risk our lives for matters of spirituality. So that's how you know that's the ikar. That's the main thing. No one's gonna die for, no one's gonna give up their life for money or for material pursuits. But we will give up our life for our Yiddishkeit, and that shows that is our true identity, and that is our core. Okay, so the godly soul of every Jew in every generation comes from a more inner place than the rest of creation. Our godly soul comes from Hashem blowing, while the rest of creation comes from Hashem speaking. Okay. So what's so special about this godly soul? So last time when we were learning Parak Beis, a great quote, we made it into a meme, that our godly soul is part of the creator versus being a part of creation. So everything that God created on this earth was created with Hashem's speech. There's only one thing that was created from Hashem's breath. Hashem blew into Adam a soul of life, Nishmas Chayim. And blowing takes a lot more effort than speaking. Speaking, I could speak for 5 hours, no problem, but I can't blow balloons for 5 hours. So everything else that Hashem created, it didn't take that much investment from him. But blowing was a lot more. It's a mashal to understand to understand what the neshama is. There are two mishalim. The first mashal is that Hashem blew. The concept of blowing. When you want to blow, if a person is God forbid unconscious, you could scream from today to tomorrow. It's not going to wake them up. You have to resuscitate them. You have to blow into them to bring them back to life, and that takes effort. That takes work. So just like when you want to bring someone back to life, you have to blow into them and put in a lot of effort to bring them back to life. For Hashem, so to speak, Hashem invested so much more into our neshama than he did into creating anything else. Anything else, just like you could say, take out the garbage, or let there be, to just say, let there be light, or let there be a world. It was so easy, so to speak, for Hashem to do. It didn't take any sweat off his back. But the neshama, that already comes from a much deeper place, and Hashem's much more invested, completely invested. I'm going to see how invested in our neshama.
So it was a, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm a speech therapist and a breathwork facilitator.
Oh, wow.
So speech actually comes from the breath. It's the breath, and then you add on the vibrations, and that's how speech is. Breath is without any vibrations, without any disturbances. It's just fully, like literally just from Hashem straight to us without any disturbances of the vocal cords, you know?
Wow.
My question was it a creation or just a piece of Hashem?
Okay, so you could ask a question, you could say, well, everything has a piece of Hashem inside of it, right? What's the difference, right? So everything has a piece of Hashem, or a spark of life that brings it into existence, right? But Hashem is called, one of the names of Hashem is HaMakom. Like we say, HaMakom Menachem Eschem, right? Very interesting thing to call a God, the place, right? Because Hashem is in every single thing. But every single thing doesn't necessarily recognize Hashem. Not the rest of creation doesn't make place for Hashem, except for the neshama. Nothing could be here without Hashem. Hashem is in every single thing, but the question is, does every single thing recognize it and allow Hashem to express itself in it? So of course, everything has a spark that keeps it alive, but a neshama is a whole different thing. A neshama is where Hashem is truly expressed and felt. That's what it means, a neshama. So we have a piece of Hashem inside of us, means that if we just tap into it, we could reach a place where Hashem is where we feel Hashem, and when we allow Hashem to be expressed in what we do. I was watching a clip on, I think it was Torah Anytime. They have these videos. So every time a person davens, and let's say they didn't have kavana, they just said the words. So every time we daven without kavana, it's a 0. Hashem writes down a 0. Tomorrow you daven without kavana, another 0. You keep going, 0, 0, 0. It says about Hashem that when Hashem counts like the nations. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that Hashem counts like the nations, meaning that in Hebrew we go from left to right. With numbers, we go from right to left. So when Hashem counts, all of a sudden comes one day, and something is going on in your life that, a challenge, whatever it is, and you take the siddur and you daven with kavana. And then you know what Hashem does? He takes a 1 and he puts it in front of all the zeros. So we have that opportunity. It could be that every other day we just daven without kavana, but then it comes that there's a challenge. There's something that you turn to Hashem, and it's just you tap into your neshama, and it's there. If you just dig a little deeper, and you have and then you're davening, and you're actually crying, and you're like, where did these tears come from? Every other day I daven with, and there's no tears, But when what it happens when we really want to connect, we really need to connect. When we go deeper and go, that's not just the surface. We go deeper and we touch our neshama, and then that is the part of us that where Hashem is alive and vibrant, and that is where Hashem is not just that it's keeping something alive, but rather that we make space for Hashem also. It's a two-way street, not just Hashem's keeping us alive, but rather that we make space and we recognize Hashem and we bring that awareness to the to front center, to the surface. That's what it means. That's why a Jewish person is different than any other creation. Yes, everything has a life force in it, but we have a neshama, an actual piece of God that is not just giving something life, but that not just that it gives something life, but that the creation, which is us, our body, that we could actually reciprocate and make space for Hashem. Not just that Hashem is making space for us to exist, but that we make space for Hashem and we recognize Him and we bring Him to the surface, to our life, not just hidden deep down, but rather that Hashem is front center. Okay. Not only that, Hashem blow into us. We say it every single day in our davening. Hashem blew into me this soul of life. But in addition to that, Nishmas Kalish Yisrael, the soul of every single Jew, Nimshachar is drawn mimachshavasai v'chachmasai yisbarich. It comes from it comes from Hashem's thought and wisdom. Okay. Our godly souls, in the Medrash it is taught, comes from the highest level of Hashem's thought. Just like the blowing that comes from within, Hashem's thoughts are part of Him. Okay, let's explain. The Jewish people, the Jewish people come from Hashem's thoughts. We all have thoughts, but then there's something called the first thought that made all the other thoughts come. When Hashem wanted to create this world, the first thought that was Allah b'machshava, the first thought was two things. For two things Hashem created the world, for Yidden and for Torah. And then once Hashem thought about Yidden and Torah, then the ball started rolling to create the rest of the world. But Yidden and the neshama of the Yid, that was machshava tchila. That was the first thought. So our neshama comes from Hashem's first thought. And also there's something incredible about Hashem's wisdom. And that is wisdom is even a higher level than just thinking. By us, there's three different things. There's me, my thoughts, what I'm thinking about, and the software, the power to think. It's three different things. Like a person going fishing. You have the person, the person, that you have the fishing rod, and then you have the fish. Three different things. Me, the fish is what I want to know, and the fishing rod is how I'm going to get the fish. Three different things. But with Hashem and His wisdom are one. Just like you know, are you awake right now? You know that you're awake. You don't have to think about it. You're just awake. Just you know that you're awake. So Hashem, it's not just everything in this world. It's not something separate that Hashem has to think about. But by Hashem knowing Himself, He automatically knows everything. So Hashem and His wisdom are one. So if we come from Hashem's wisdom, and Hashem's wisdom is not separate from Him, Hashem and His wisdom are one, then we are actually coming from Hashem Himself. And we, meaning our neshama, which is different than all the other creations. So we're coming from a much deeper place. We're coming from Hashem's blowing. We're coming from Hashem's thought. We were the first thought that even made this whole, we are the first thought. And because of that, the whole world exists. And therefore, all of our enemies that want to destroy us so badly, they don't realize who they're fighting, who they're dealing with, that we are Hashem's firstborn son. And if not for the Jewish people, there would never have been a world in the first place. They're so busy trying to get rid of us, but they don't realize that we are the purpose for creation. So if there would be no, if they got their way and wiped the Jewish people off the face of this world, earth, chas v'shalom, which could never happen, and why can't it happen? It can't happen because we are the purpose for creation. There is no point of creation. There is no point of a world if there aren't Jewish people here serving Hashem. So they have it all wrong. They should be putting the Jewish people on a pedestal. They don't realize that they wouldn't be here if we weren't here. Yeah, Kara. Okay, we have to go to the college campuses and let them know. Okay. So that was one mashal. The first mashal to understand what a neshama is. How is a neshama different than anything else that Hashem created? So the first mashal is that Hashem blew into us. It's blowing versus speaking. The second mashal we're going to speak about now, which is a Jew's relationship with Hashem also does compare to the relationship between a child and his father so dear. Just like a father's essence is transmitted to his child through his brain, Hashem's essence, our godly soul does contain. Okay. Yeah. How is a child conceived? The scientific way for how a child conceived, regular animals, if they want to, multiply, it's not a intellectual thing. It's a natural thing. With human beings, it's not just a natural thing that happens it's not something that could just happen. There has to be thought. A man has to choose a wife with who he wants to have a family. And then for conception, the man has to choose, has to have this desire, has to have this impulse, which comes from the brain. And then that impulse travels from the brain, goes through the spine, and then it starts off in the brain, and it has to be a desire for it to happen. It's not just going to happen by itself. There has to be a desire, there has to be a will that has to come from the brain. It has to be something that it's a conscious thought. It's a conscious thought that in order for that to happen. Yes, that means
that person can have a child. A brain that animal technically can, is what you're saying? Like it's like it doesn't need a brain.
It doesn't. You can't say that a man was raped. It has to. You can't force a man to. You can't force a man to have a baby. It's not gonna. It doesn't happen. There has to. What?
Our men that say they were raped in the world.
That's very, very sad.
I work with them. I'm a therapist that did. Like women come in, they do. There is, believe it or not.
Okay, but it's not. Well, okay, but put it this way: it's not the natural way. The natural way.
Right, but
the natural. I'm saying it. But it should be both people consent.
Right.
Okay, but let's just say most of the time. But I'm saying most of the time
it
it has to
be like a woman could rape a man. It's out there.
But it still started as intellectual place as well.
What?
It has
to start intellectual.
Why he feels like a victim or whatever, that's the whole psychological aspect of it. But something happened in his brain that allowed him to.
I mean, I think you can see, but a man, I think it's whether the man has the power to be the one to initiate the conception. That's what it's more like. That's it, right? You're saying like he needs to be the one.
But
there's an intellectual aspect to the whole system.
Yeah.
That's the point, I think.
It's a biological instinct.
the biological starts in the brain.
Starts in the brain, right? It's a response, a natural response.
What I'm saying is,
Right, but it's a natural body response.
But it starts in the brain.
It starts in the brain.
It starts in the brain.
Right, because everything's the brain. The brain is.
Yeah, everything is.
A woman could be a vegetable,
I think
and it
that's
will
what
still
the brain-
work, and a man cannot.
The brain is the biggest organ in the body. It controls everything.
That's it,
Yeah.
Right, of course, the brain controls the whole body.
Correct.
Right?
but not by the woman. Doesn't need the brain. A woman can be a vegetable. A woman can be brain dead. And still conceive.
Right, for sure, right.
A man
So we don't
cannot.
enjoy it, but
It's not remember that part, but a man cannot.
Right,
Okay,
say,
so
but,
ultimately,
you know,
ultimately, the when the woman when at the moment of conception, right? The moment of conception, that microscopic whatever it is, right? It's coming from, it stems from the father's brain, and then we call it development. We call it now after 9 months, it develops into a beautiful baby with 10 fingers and 10 toes. And we call that the baby is developing more and more. But really, if it's as the 9 months progress, part of that seed or part of that, part of that remains a brain, and the rest of it evolves into other body parts. So all the other parts that are being that are further developed are all losing potential. In the beginning, everything, it was just brain, but then some of it stays brain, and the rest of it evolves until you have 10 fingers, 10 toes, till you have a whole baby.
and DNA.
But the DNA is the same in the toenail as it is in the brain.
And it's controlled by the brain.
And yes, 100%. So what happens is like this. You have, so a child, there's two aspects here. You have a child. The child's brain, and then the child's brain, and the entire child comes the child comes from the father's brain, if you go all the way back. And then the child, his brain controls his entire body. So this is a mashal for the neshama. The neshama comes from Hashem's brain, meaning we come from Hashem's thought. So just like there's a connection, such a strong connection between a father, and a mother, between a father and a child, that's how strong the connection is between a Jew and Hashem. If, God forbid, a baby is separated from their parent at birth, it could be 30, 40, 50 years later, and the child and the parent are reunited, there's still there's a relationship. It's not a relationship between a spouse or a friend. You have to work on it. You have to invest in it. But a relationship between a parent and a child, even if they didn't see each other for 50 years, is something that's intrinsic. It just exists without any effort. It's automatic. It's natural. It's just there. And that is our relationship with Hashem. We are Hashem's child. Now, the rest of the world, everyone likes to say, oh, all people, all humankind are God's children. That is something very, very nice to say. But from a Torah perspective, it's not true. From a Torah perspective, only the Jewish people are Hashem's child. And that's why we're so connected to Hashem. Once when that neshama is revealed, when that neshama is revealed, we could give up our life for Hashem, because we're truly one with Hashem. And it's so interesting because this week's parsha is the Akedah Yitzchak, and Avram Avinu is our father, and he gave us the ability of Mesiras Nefesh. He imprinted it into that's the legacy that Avram Avinu gave us, that we are able to have this Mesiras Nefesh without any well, it's both. It's both, but it's both. Yeah, the thing is with Avram, you could say, oh, it's Yitzchak. Yitzchak, was willing to give up his life, but Avraham, but for Avraham, there was why was Avram willing to give up his son? And the answer is, for no reason. It made no sense. There was no point. There was no logic behind it. If he killed his son, then everything that he worked for his whole life would be down the drain. And Hashem promised him that through Yitzchak it will be the Jewish people. There was no gain. There was no news reporters. There was no witnesses. There will be nothing left. There was no point. There was no statement. Nothing. And when Avram Avinu did that, he opened up the channel for us to have Mesiras Nefesh. It's not just oh, if I give up my life, oh, then I'll get Olam Haba. No, for no reason whatsoever. Because why are we able to give up our life for Hashem? Because we're truly one with Him. We're truly one with Him. We come just like a child comes from the father's brain. We come from Hashem's brain. Yes, we're down here just like a child has their own body and is not attached to their parent. We are down here on this earth, but we're one with Hashem, just like a child is one with their parent. That relationship could never be severed. Okay. Okay, so now I'm up to I'm on the second column of this poem. Okay, Hashem's mind isn't his essence, one can claim, but Hashem and his wisdom are one and the same. Hashem is not made up of parts. Since his essence is within us, we can serve him with all our hearts. Okay, now comes the next question. So, if we all come from Hashem's brain, are all Jews equal? What do you think?
It depends on how much we allow us to feel him and to embody him, and how much we let in.
Amazing. Okay, so the answer is are all Jews equal? And if we say yes, all Jews are equal, then how come every single one of us looks different from the next? We have people that are more righteous, people that are less righteous. What's going on if we all come from Hashem's brain? We're all one with Hashem. So as you said, at the source, yes, we're all equal. If you go back to the source, we're all one. But the question is, how much do we experience the neshama in our life? So there are various, so many millions and billions of trillions of, as many people as there are different, how much we experience the neshama, how much we experience godliness in our life. But in truth, we all are one, and we all are equal.
Our source is the same.
Yes, our source is the same.
And some neshams are born early and some are born later.
Yeah,
how-
Avram Avinu and
We
me
don't
are
have
the
to
same.
have
At
to
the
make
core
them.
of everything.
Yeah, the source.
Yeah.
At the core, your essence
Right.
is the same.
Just like this muscle of a body, right? So yes, there's a seder hishtalshelus, which means that there's an evolution, right? So you have a brain.
Development of the soul, and that's where it changes.
So this muscle is so perfect it's so perfect because just like you have a body, right? At conception you had everything in that first seed, right? All the potential is in the seed. And then part of that potential evolved into toenails. But if you go back to the potential, at that moment of potential, everyone's equal. But then that potential, either you could say progression, or you could say the opposite. It goes down, degraded, less and less until you have here or a toenail that you could cut it and
brain and then
Ah.
and the brain have the same DNA, the same essence. It's just how it manifests is different.
yeah. So that's why you have brain neshamas, and you have toenail neshamas, and you have hand neshamas, and feet neshamas.
I know.
All the Jewish people are compared to one body, right? We're all compared to one body. And if we want a little bit more Jewish guilt, okay, so that's why we're responsible one for the other. I can't just worry about myself. If I'm a brain soul, if my soul is compared to a brain of a body, okay, I can't just worry about myself because all the Jewish people are one body, and therefore you have a Chabad guy in the airplane, and there's someone sitting next to him says, "Oh, you want to put on tefillin?" Because it's my responsibility, or a woman with Shabbos calendars, it's my responsibility to take care of my whole body. I can't just worry about myself. A hand can't just worry about itself. It has to worry about the whole body.
All brain souls, and sometimes our souls are just covered with layers and layers and layers and layers that we can't feel our brain soul. Every Jew, I think, I mean, unless you're more of an expert.
No, it's not me. Okay.
I would think that
Okay,
every single Jew has that brain soul.
Okay,
deep
so
down,
you're
and if you
right.
feel
Put
it.
it down, it's all from that source, but are we at the level of the rug next door, or forget about the rug?
Okay. So there's three ways. This body mashal, okay, of the Jewish people compared to body, it's in three ways. You could either look at it, and your way is going to come last. So just a minute. Okay. Way number one is all the Jewish people throughout history are compared to one body. So Avram Avinu is the brain soul, and our generation, we are the heel. And that's what we say, because of the Mashiach, that the generation before Mashiach is compared to the heel. Now, what's the difference between a heel and a brain? If it's a rainy day, right? Children, I don't know about adults, but children would very much enjoy going outside barefoot in the puddles and getting very, very muddy. And then you come in and you go straight to the bathtub and clean the feet, no harm done. Okay, now take a person who's in the middle of brain surgery and one drop of dust goes into the brain. Okay, it's much more sensitive. You can't compare. The brain, the heel, it's a boiling bathtub. You stick your heel in, or the swimming pool, right? You stick your heel in to feel the temperature. You're not putting your brain first versus the heel. Your heel could handle more, So all the Jewish people are compared to one body. Avram Avinu, our Avos, Moshe Rabbeinu, they're the brain souls, and we're the heel. And all the generations in between are everything else. Hearts and lungs and all the other body parts. That's if you want to look at the whole Jewish people as a whole. Then you can look at within each generation. Within this generation, why was I born in 1980 and not in the 1500s or another time? I was born in specifically the time that I was in because all of us, there's something in common between us, and we are all one body in this generation. So I have more responsibility for the people in my generation than I do for people in a different generation because they're not here right now.
They say that with tzaddikim, when people go down and by tzaddikim that were alive during their time, there's like a responsibility, quote unquote.
Wow. Very interesting. Very interesting, because all the souls that are living in a certain time period all have a connection between them. If this world is Hashem's stage, we're all acting at this scene at this time.
So
We have to.
now?
So wait, no, it depends which way you're looking at it. If you're looking at all the Jewish people as a whole, we're all heels. But then within this generation, we're all different parts of a body within this generation. Like just if you have a play. Right? One person is doing, some people are doing dance, some people are doing drama, some people are doing, scenery. Everyone together in this generation to make this act happen. Even if we're all doing drama, each of us has to be a different character. So you have the whole play in general, and then you have this particular scene. Each of us has a part in this particular scene. Now, if we're all working on the same scene, we all have to interact with each other and work together. So yes, within this generation, we have souls that are brain-like, and we have souls that are heel-like. And then within you have a nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechid, 5 parts of your soul. And within each part of the soul, you could break it down and you have within each part of the 5 parts of your own individual soul, you have parts that are compared to a heel and parts that are compared to a brain. Okay, it's not me, it's Tanya. Okay. Yeah. So this is why in this parak of Tanya, in this parak of Tanya, it's very interesting. There are different, in the Siddur on page 2, you have Shalei Asani Gai. Right away, people can ask questions. It's already it's already a challenge. It's already a challenging part. A challenge. You have to, to answer to people. In the second parak of Tanya, it speaks about this concept of a Rosh B'nai Yisrael, a head of the Jewish people. And we say head. We don't just say, the president or, what's a head? A head is, we also say, Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh, and Rosh B'nai Yisrael. What's a head? A head is a head with a brain. The head and the brain, right? What's the brain? What does the brain do? What's the function of the brain? Controls the whole body. Rosh Hashanah, it's not just Happy New Year. No. Rosh Hashanah controls the whole year. Nothing that happens during the year just happens. It's all decided on Rosh Hashanah. Same thing as Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, from the first day of the month, it incorporates within it the power of the entire month. And therefore, we say a Rebbe is a Rosh B'nai Yisrael, is the head of the Jewish people. So some people take issue and say, "Oh, what do you need a Rebbe? I want to have a direct relationship with Hashem. I don't need a Rebbe. What intermediary between me and God?" A Rebbe is not an intermediary. A Rebbe is a brain soul. A Rebbe is a brain soul, and a brain soul. What's its job? Its job is to make sure that every single part of the body is functioning properly. A Rebbe is not just a Talmid Chacham. A Talmid Chacham is someone who's very smart. But so someone who's very smart, it doesn't show on their spirituality. It shows on their intelligence. There's something called a pin test, where you could take a Gemara, and you take a pin and put it through the Gemara in this spot, and this Talmid Chacham, he could tell you on every single page what word is exactly on that spot on every single page. That's someone who's a genius. Okay, so because you're a genius, it doesn't show. You could be a genius. A genius shows how smart you are. It doesn't show how spiritual you are. So a Rosh B'nai Yisrael is a true Talmid Chacham. You know what Talmid Chacham means? We translate Talmid Chacham as a scholar, right? A Talmid. What's a Talmid? Talmid is someone who's constantly learning. It's not that I finished, now I get a trophy, now I get a medal, I'm done. A Talmid is constantly learning, and Chacham is Chachma, which is wisdom, which is bittul. A Rosh B'nai Yisrael is someone who's constantly working on his bittul. It's not someone that just acquired an incredible amount of knowledge, and now I'm going to tell you what to do and how to live. And you have to listen to me because I know and you don't. That's not a Rebbe. A Rebbe is literally a brain soul who's responsible to make sure that every part of the body is alive, spiritually alive. And that's why if there's a Yid in Timbuktu who needs matzah or who needs Jewish education or whatever it is, the brain feels it. The brain feels the pain of the toenail, because that's the function of a brain. The responsibility of a brain is to make sure that every single part of the body is healthy and well and okay. And if it's not, it's the brain's responsibility to make sure that part of the body gets its chayis, gets its life force. And there are some people that, you see, a brain could never tell the stomach, I don't like what you're eating today. Too much carbs. I'm going to disown you. A brain is responsible for every single part of the body, no matter what. And the way it is that there will be people in every generation that will fight against the Rosh B'nai Yisrael in every generation, just like you have Kairach fought against Moshe. But even Kairach, who fought against Moshe, Moshe is still responsible to give him his life force because Moshe is still the brain. And therefore Moshe tried to speak to Kairach, to try to get him to Teshuvah, to try to reason with him. Because as a brain, that you can't give up on anybody. And because that's what a brain can't, you can't give up on anybody. So it's not a rebbe is not an intermediary. Oh, because in other religions, connect to the intermediary, and then the intermediary is going to connect you to God. That's avodah zarah. But a rebbe is a brain soul whose responsibility is to make sure that every single part of the body is alive and connected to the father's soul, to the father's brain.
Are you talking about a rebbe, like per se, like in your Chabad, or like a rebbe b'shul? Like I feel like the levels of like halvai, the rebbe b'shul or the rebbe b'kehila should be that for everyone. I feel like maybe that's going too much.
No. So I'm saying so also with Moshe Rabbeinu, you had Moshe Rabbeinu appointed if a yid had a question. Right, this was what Yisrael told him. Moshe couldn't possibly answer every single person's question every single day. So there was a system. There were leaders of tens and leaders of hundreds and leaders of thousands, leaders of 10,000s and leaders of 100,000s. And then there were some people, if they had a question that no one else could help them with, then ultimately it went to Moshe Rabbeinu. So yes, there are, within this generation, it's not just heel souls and brain souls. There's many other souls in between. You have heart and lungs and every other part of the body. So yes, and every single person says in Pirkei Avos, Hasei l'charav, every single person is supposed to have a mashpia, a mentor, a rav, yes, to discuss things with and to help and to help you out 100%. But but there is also a Rosh B'nai Yisrael, there is also a soul, a brain soul that is responsible not just for my particular kahila, but for all the Jewish people.
So you're talking like, I'm thinking like Rebbe Feinstein, Shmuel Kamenetsky.
So whoever, so I'm saying, so just like, what I'm saying is that there are all different parts of the body, and there are parts that are more. A person could live without a finger. You know what I'm saying? But there are parts of the body that are integral. You can't live without a heart beating. You know what I'm saying? So which tzaddik is which part of the body? I'm not here to tell you. But we have to know that we have tzaddikim in every generation that are responsible for the welfare of the entire Jewish people, not just the community. So if you want to judge, see this particular tzaddik, what is their circle of influence? Circle of caring, exactly. The more the greater that like we said, bimal mamish. The greater you are, the more you could come down and care about the lowest of the low. So I said this. I said this story last time when we were learning it. There was during the time of the Holocaust, there were in France, the Nazis were, the Jews were running from place to place, and there were children that were sent to an orphanage in France by the mountains, just that they should be more safe from the bombings. And there were young kids, some who were orphaned, some who did have parents still, but they were still sent over there for their safety. And the kids were hungry, and they were very young, and they were very sad. And there was a man that would come every single day, and he would bring tuna and baguettes to these children, and they were so sad they didn't even want to eat. And he would put them on their lap, and he would feed them, and he would sing to them, etc. And these kids, they really felt, they didn't even know his name, but they really felt that this individual, really helped them in such a difficult time. One of these kids, his name was David. And after the war, he was reunited with his parents, and he came to America. And somebody, a relative of his, suggested to him, why don't you come meet the Lubavitcher Rebbe? And he came into a private audience with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe looks at him and he says, Shalom Aleichem, Davido. And he's like, how do you know who I am? And all of a sudden he realized that the Rebbe was that man in France during the war, and the Rebbe himself, who was going back and forth because the Rebbe got out on the last boat to come to America, and he himself didn't know, what was going to be with him, and yet he made sure that to care for these young kids, 2, 3, 4, it wasn't too low for him, and the Rebbe he really cared about the children. A few times a year, the entire 770, which is the Chabad headquarters, and there are people that are learning Bachram, that are learning there all the time, and all the Bachram had to leave, and the Rebbe would speak a rally specifically for children, and the Rebbe would give coins to the kids, and the Rebbe loved the children. Lag Ba'omer, the floats would pass by, the children would pass by, and the Rebbe would wave to everybody. The Rebbe truly, truly loved the children, because the greater you are, the lower you could come down. I have a necklace that I'm wearing with a nickel that I received from the Rebbe on my 8th birthday. So, and the Rebbe, we know the Rebbe stood for many hours every single Sunday giving dollars and brachos to every single person. You didn't have to be Jewish, and it didn't matter what age you are, and it didn't matter how from you were. Every single person that the Rebbe cared about, because as a brain soul, it's his responsibility to make sure that every single yid is alive, beruchnius, is passionate, is fire, to make sure that everyone is okay. That's his responsibility. And yeah, okay.
There's a clip of the Rebbe saying to somebody, I think it was him, make sure that the Chinese people, when somewhere on the Lower East Side, make sure they don't speak up for themselves. Make sure that you take care of them. He was telling this, I forgot it was. He thought about every single person in the world.
Yeah.
Should we continue next week because it's 11:02? And
Okay. I think we should. I think I should just read the poem in the next 5 minutes. I'm finished. That way we could. Yeah. Okay. And then if anyone wants more information, I'll guide you to the to where to listen if you want to hear more in depth. But I think we should just try to rush through this. Okay. Most of it we said already, I hope. Okay. All souls stem from the same source originally, but descend to different levels and are compared to parts of a body. The souls of our forefathers to the head do compare, as well as the souls of the leaders in every generation we hold so dear. As the generations progress, so do the levels of the souls that we possess. But although our souls are compared to the heel, the fact that we can trace them to Hashem's essence is a big deal. So as low as we go, as low as we fall, no matter who, the lowest person always has to know that they could always come back home. Because if they go back to their source, they're truly one with Hashem. With a baby, the same is true. Whoops, sorry, I just lost it. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. With a baby, the same is true. His or her fingernails stem from the father's brain too. In its mother's womb, it develops for 9 months slowly until it is born into this world perfectly. The form of the fingernails is nothing like the brain, but its essence it does contain. Its life force comes from the brain. If the nail gets hurt, the brain feels the pain. With regards to souls, the same does apply. As low as the soul goes, it retains its essence so high. Its life force comes from the brain souls of the Jewish nation, which are the tzaddikim in every generation. From the brain, that's how we get our chayis, whether we're ready to admit it or not. Okay, and attach yourself to us on page 2. And attach yourself to Hashem is a verse in Devarim. How can we attach ourselves to Hashem? We question. It says l'dafka bay. And you say, how can we attach ourselves to Hashem? If we were to attach ourselves to Hashem, we just burn up. It's impossible, right? An explanation is given by our sages of blessed memory. One who attaches himself to a scholar is attached to Hashem literally, to a Talmud Chacham. A Talmud Chacham meaning someone who's constantly being a Talmud to acquire more and more Chachma, not just a Talmud Chacham, someone who just has a lot of knowledge. It seems strange that through a human, a connection to Hashem we acquire, but we are like a lamp that is connected to a powerhouse through a wire. The right switch or button that tzaddik helps us find, because the tzaddik's soul is from the collective Jewish people's mind. When a tzaddik gives advice or tells us what to do, it's Hashem's will shining through. A true tzaddik has no ego and is as humble as can be. One who rebels gets his nourishment from behind indirectly. So the Rosh Hashanah is still responsible for even for the people that rebel against him. So he still has to give them their chayis. So he gives them from behind, but everyone gets their chayis from the Rosh Hashanah. Okay. The parak ends with one more thing which I did not discuss at all, and that is that what during conception, what is the parent's role? What can the parents do? A parent cannot choose which neshama they're gonna bring down by conception. But with parents, when they act in a holy manner, they are able to draw down livushim. Livushim is how garments, is how the neshama is gonna be able to express itself. And the holier we are, the better garments we can give to our children. For example, if you are traveling somewhere, you're traveling you're traveling somewhere and someone tells you that the weather there, it's freezing over there. So you get your coat and your scarf and your mittens and your hat and you put everything on and you get off the plane and it's 100 degrees outside, right? So the garments are very heavy and it's so much hard and you're schwitzing and it's not comfortable. So that's the parents' role. When we have children in a state of kedusha, in a state of holiness, we're able to draw down appropriate clothing for our children. Okay, that's the last paragraph. Parents have a great responsibility. During conception, they should think of thoughts that are holy. To draw down a holy garment for their child's soul is up to them. But no matter what, the soul's essence is always one with Hashem. We find the people that, when it comes to anything to do with Mashiach, right? There was always, it seems like very holy souls, it had to come like through the back door,
Like
Rus, light,
yes.
and even Avraham. Who was Avraham born to?
Yes.
To Terach, right? So Avram was an unbelievable soul. His parents may not have conceived him in a state of holiness, but it had to, because sometimes you have such powerful souls are born to people that Amei Aretz, or to people that are not such good standing people, because that way, like to get that soul into this world, that the evil forces will allow it to come through, because they say, oh, anyway, the parents are no good, so the soul won't really stand a chance. But so if a person that has heavy levushim, it's not a death sentence. It'll just take more work for them to reveal.
Missing like good levushim technically.
Technically, but he was such a powerful soul that he was able to go through exactly.
Have to shed those levushim, like
It
create
took
a
a
new
while.
identity.
It took a while, wasn't it?
Very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a difficult journey. So I'm saying, if you're wearing levushim are important. You can't go outside without levushim. You can't go outside without clothing. That's your interface with the world. So you need clothing. But what kind of clothing? That's up to the parents. That's the gift that the parents give the soul, that their child. So you could always take off the hat and the gloves and the coat and whatever, and work on yourself to get better levushim. That's your character traits and stuff like that. You can work on yourself to improve that. But as parents, we have to realize our power. Hashem, we can't choose a soul, but we could definitely help with the levushim. Okay, there's so much more to be said. I recommend Rabbi Ari Shishler. If anyone wants to listen to him, I could post that. Okay, so let me just shut this, and then we'll talk about next week.